Hello, this is the third and the last video lecture of the School of the Feral Grounds. In this lecture, I'm accompanied with my colleague Primož.
Hi, I'm microbiologist and permaculturist, and in this lecture we will explore the site perspective. We will look in feral lands as laboratories for cultivation, interspecies collaboration and care.
As a consequence of diverse political and economic conflicts, our post-industrial cities are seeing a rise in neglected urban environments, reclaimed by nature. When invisible on planning documents, these largely overlooked yet highly productive green spaces have the capacity to regulate the climate, enhance biodiversity, provide irreplaceable ecological infrastructure, and give rise to research platforms for learning about ecocultural regeneration. If the citizen's role is often limited solely to the users and admirers of urban parks and forests, then these anthropogenic ecosystems populated with invasive and other feral plants, human infrastructures and fugitive compounds ask us for active, attentive engagement. They call for a new generation of care workers who know how to practice slow disturbance through nurturing of interspecies collaboration. If we were able to recognize the educational, ecological and cultural value of spontaneous ecologies, could we plan the city by integrating their vital existence into such schemes? Instead of treating them as precarious landscapes on the road to extinction, at the hands of human-centric infrastructures, this lecture will explore feral ecosystems as public laboratories of multispecies co-creation and care. In this lecture, the agency of feral ecosystems in cities will be presented through the case study of Chapitre, from which our collective operates. Chapitre is an eco-social laboratory of co-living located on a reclaimed construction site in Ljubljana. By examining this case study, you will gain a better understanding of what aspects to focus on when approaching similar locations. It is important to approach abandoned sites from a critical lens, challenging the notion that they are simply empty or waste estates on which human-centered development can flourish without any hesitation. While we explore the potential of these sites for ecocultural regeneration, such as establishing exhibition spaces or cultural centers focusing on ecological themes, we must be cautious about appropriating them without thoughtful consideration. This is why it is crucial to imagine and compose new mechanisms that enable us to understand and capture their vibrant history and multispecies presence before starting any intervention. Only through critical engagement with their evolution, we have the potential to perceive them as dynamic entities shaped by a range of ecosocial damages, including political decisions, gardening trends, economic interests, and ecological processes. This recognition paves the way for a socially inclusive and ecological approach to their transformation. The Chapitre site stands as a notable illustration of a disturbed ecology shaped over the past 3 decades by a convergence of natural processes and a complex interplay of political and economic factors guided by state-led decisions. Following the dissolution of Yugoslavia, Slovenia made a strategic decision to relocate its military infrastructure away from urban areas. As a result, the Austro-Hungarian military barracks, which had been constructed on the site in 1895, were demolished. Left in its wake was an 18,000 square meter plot characterized by rubble and the remnants of horse chestnut trees from the military era. As the surrounding area underwent development for a high-end residential complex, Bežigrajski dvori or Bežigraj Kurts, Chapitre plot served a different purpose. It functioned as an extraction site, providing gravel necessary for the construction of the neighborhood, established on a portion of the former military grounds. During the process of repurposing the site as an opportunistic extraction resource, the future use and purpose of the plot remained uncertain. This uncertainty can be attributed to the complex politics in state projects, with shifting interests and power dynamics among ministries. Consequently, such projects fail to serve the public good. As administrative deliberations and architectural competitions for the new ministries unfolded, the untamed force of nature continued to exert its influence on the recently enclosed site, subtly shaping its transformation over time. Regulated maintenance and excavation practices that involve the use of heavy machinery led to the introduction of invasive and other feral plants, including black locust, Japanese knotweed, and tree of heaven. These non-native species seized the opportunity to establish themselves and flourish, kickstarting ecological processes on the site.
As the site underwent colonization by invasive plants, the neighboring Bežigrajski Dvor green areas were also being established. In the landscape planning practices of the 90s, there was a strong emphasis on exotic trees and ornamental shrubs, accompanied by diligent upkeep of well-manicured lawns to create symbolic representation of prestigious green spaces. As a consequence, a diverse range of ornamental plant species that were introduced to the gardens of Bežigrajski Dvori spontaneously entered the site through the natural seed dispersal mechanisms. The presence of the new residents in the neighborhood also contributed to the site's evolving ecology, as they unconsciously influenced it by discarding consumed fruits over the fence. Bežigrad also experienced a significant development as a bustling business hub, resulting in an increased traffic along Dunajska Road. The combined effect of increased vehicle movement and the prevailing winds provided an ideal mechanism for the dispersal of seeds across the area. The intricate interplay of these various factors has significantly influenced the dynamic evolution and ecological composition of the former military site, ultimately shaping its current landscape. Over time, the soil has undergone gradual revitalization, initiating the remarkable process of ecological succession. The natural environment responded to the newfound space, fostering an extraordinary burst of biodiversity as the ecosystem progressed towards its full potential.
Within this context, the concept of third landscapes, introduced by French landscape architect and botanist Gilles Clément, sheds light on the significance of abandoned areas characterized by unique species compositions and exceptional biodiversity. Serving as transitional zones between cultivated spaces and untouched natural environments, third landscapes encompass overlooked and neglected spaces such as vacant lots, industrial areas, and abandoned sites. In these spaces, nature reclaims its presence, giving rise to new ecological formations. Third landscapes represent a distinct category within urban ecology, devoid of deliberate maintenance or intentional design. They have been the subject of exploration from the perspective of contaminated diversity, a concept coined by anthropologist Anna Zink. Contaminated diversity recognizes the interconnectedness, biological, historical, political, and cultural elements resulting in a diverse array of species. In sites of contaminated diversity, invasive, native, cultivated, and other species coexist, creating unexpected ecologies that ignite curiosity and fascination. Amidst transformative moments, crises often present opportunities, and third landscapes exemplify the potential found in these contexts. By embracing the regenerative power of these abandoned spaces, we can appreciate their transformative role in shaping ecological succession and fostering thriving ecosystems. Moving beyond the traditional notions of sustainability, our approach to degraded urban sites transcends mere preservation and maintenance. Instead, we view these sites as being in a state of crisis, which necessitates regenerative practices and a re-evaluation of how nature is appropriated, utilized, and valued by various social actors. This is why we propose to foster situated experimentation that not only seeks to enhance living conditions on the site, but also repairs the fractured connections between humans and the land they inhabit. Central to these acts of repair are various forms of care work directed towards the well-being of diverse multi-species communities. As articulated by Maria Puig de la Bella Casa, this entails adopting a mode of attention that recognizes the interconnectedness of life beyond the human realm, a web of existence that sustains life itself. Through this perspective, Puig de la Bella Casa expands the domain of care to encompass non-human entities. She reimagines the ethics of care originally articulated by the feminist philosopher Jean Tronto, which emphasizes attentiveness, responsiveness, and responsibility in our relationships with others and the environment. To embrace repair as an act of care from a post-human perspective, we must expand our awareness beyond human agency and recognize the active roles of non-human beings in nurturing and enhancing supportive structures for all. Moreover, in the process of repair, it is essential to recognize the inherent limitation of our interconnectedness. This means acknowledging that some lands may be damaged beyond repair and need to be acknowledged and treated accordingly. When analyzing the crises that emerge within crater-alike sites, we can discover multiple entry points that guide our efforts in repair. The process of repair encompasses a range of diverse forms, such as reclamation of reparatory agency by nature, community-driven restoration actions, new innovative organizations, inventive resistance strategies, regenerative approaches to production and consumption, and engagement with new policy formations. The following propositions serve as examples of the care work undertaken at Crater site, with a specific focus on introducing feral methodologies and approaches for direct engagement with biodiversity, both on site and beyond. These acts have brought together a diverse community of plants, fungi, animals, designers, ecologists, permaculturists, and architects. Through our collaboration, we have developed innovative approaches and practices fostering an interdisciplinary community of care at Crater. It is important to acknowledge that alongside these efforts, other forms of care work are being carried out at Crater, including the production of new material cultures, the development of practices of resistance and advocacy, event programming, and the creation of discursive and theoretical work. Two of the most exemplary programs that raise continuous interest of the international public are the Feral Palace and the Forbidden Vernaculars. First deals with the spatial manifestations of feral territories that goes hand in hand with the question of justice for more than human entities. And the second engages with the administrative blockage of extraction and production of biomaterials and proves that the real shift in material production is inaccessible without transforming the policies that enable their profiliation. These aspects and programs will be further explored in the upcoming learning sessions. To align with the post-human concept of repair, we'll commence by presenting the reparatory processes demonstrated by non-human communities that actively participate in the site's regeneration across different dimensions of time and space. A remarkable process of revitalization, which often goes unnoticed by city dwellers who perceive the abundance of weeds as a chaotic and neglected space deserving of removal. However, from an ecosystemic perspective, these seemingly unwanted weeds are actually a part of an ongoing process of ecological succession. This succession can be viewed as a self-healing mechanism that occurs when ecological systems experience disturbances caused by natural events or human activities. Disturbances such as fires, hurricanes, logging, or human activities like demolition, extraction, or abandonment create open spaces and opportunities for new species to colonize what may appear as empty lands. These disturbances initiate a process of regeneration that eventually leads to the establishment of a climate ecosystem, in Europe commonly represented by forests. Following the disturbance, pioneering species are the initial inhabitants of the site. In the context of invasive plants, a significant portion of these species can be classified as pioneers. Their presence plays a crucial role as they attract and facilitate the colonization of the area by other organisms. Pioneering species possess distinct characteristics such as prophyllic seed production, rhizomatic root systems, rapid growth, and abundant biomass, enabling them to establish and thrive in the newly disturbed environment. They contribute to the regeneration of the damaged sites by stabilizing and enriching the soil, as well as attracting birdlife and insects. It is worth remembering that pioneering ecosystems exhibit the highest biodiversity and are commonly occupying degraded urban environments.
Soil is the most complex ecosystem known to us. On a very small scale, air, water, inorganic and organic matter interact with each other. The diversity of conditions and nutrients on such a small scale creates conditions for a great variety of organisms: fungi, arthropods, worms, bacteria, and other soil life. More microorganisms live in a gram of fertile soil than there is human on Earth. Soil web of life, also found in crater soils, performs crucial ecosystem services such as carbon, nutrient and water cycling, soil creation, and maintaining fertility that enables plant growth. On a global scale, these services are the basis for sustaining life on Earth. In soil found in craters ecosystems, the majority of organic matter and life are concentrated on the top 10 centimeters of soil. Constant input of water through precipitation and organic matter due to plant growth is crucial for the functioning of the soil's ecosystem, ultimately enabling plant growth and circulation of water that sustains them. Unlike soils in wild ecosystem, urban soil at crater is impacted by human influences, primarily associated with construction and urbanization. Crater soil is compacted, paid over, mixed, and contaminated with various human-made materials and substances. In addition to gravel, crater soil contains construction materials, garbage, organic matter, and archaeological remnants. The soils are an exceptional archive, sediments of all interventions at the site. Because crater soil is situated in the city, it tends to be warmer due to the heat island effect caused by the densely built environment that surrounds it. Fact that the bedrock is composed of highly permeable gravel and mentioned heat island effect are the reasons that crater soils are prone to drought. Despite all anthropogenic influences, the soil at crater, unlike the soil on neighboring Dunajska Road, provides life-giving services to the surrounding environment and supports a pioneer ecosystem. Plants serve as the primary producers and the entry point for energy and matter flow within terrestrial ecosystem. Similarly, vegetation at crater performs these fundamental ecosystem services. Through their rapid growth, pioneer and invasive plants sequester substantial amount of carbon dioxide, which they convert into biomass through photosynthesis. This biomass, in turn, sustains other organisms such as insects, birds, and ultimately soil organisms that transform it into humus. Due to the diverse assemblage of fast-growing plants, pioneer ecosystems like the one found at crater generally absorb more carbon dioxide than climax ecosystems. Moreover, the pioneer plant community at crater also enhances air quality. Through evapotranspiration from their leaves and the shade provided by the trees, plants at crater cool the air and reduce the heat island effect. The extensive leaf surface intercepts airborne particulate matter, thereby purifying it. Both air cooling and purification serves as an important function for urban areas. Climate change and the environmental crisis will further underscore the significance of these services provided by a pioneer urban ecosystem for the quality of urban living. Lastly, the vegetation at crater creates more pleasant living environment in its surroundings. The melodic song of birds, the fragrant blooms of the black locust, and the various shades of green embellish the area. The ambience at crater, both for its caretakers and visitors, offer a green sanctuary for work, relaxation, and socializing. It is a known fact that access to urban nature is linked to improved physical and mental health, reduces stress level, and enhances the overall well-being. Chapitre is a considerably large green space in Ljubljana and one of the last construction pits in the city center that has not yet been developed. For organisms that can move on long distances, particularly birds, insects, and plants with airborne seeds, Chapitre represent an important stopover during their migrations through the city or the space where they can temporarily or permanently settle. For organisms that establish permanently on Chapitre, it serves as a base from which they can expand to surrounding green areas. The greater diversity of these urban organisms leads to increased genetic variability within their populations. Consequently, these organisms possess the ability to adapt more rapidly to the changing conditions. Furthermore, Chapitre represent a significant food source for organisms that do not reside on the site. Flowering plants provide a food source for honey and wild bees, while fruit-bearing plants and insect life on Chapitre offer sustenance to numerous urban birds. With these ecosystem services, the Chapitre strengthens biodiversity in the city and serves as an important habitat for non-human inhabitants of the city. In combination with other green spaces in the vicinity, particularly the nearby Plečnik Stadion, it plays a crucial role in the network of green urban infrastructure. Moreover, its feral nature provides a better foundation for the previously mentioned ecosystem care work, compared to manicured lawns, parks, or other cultivated green surfaces in the city.
Now let's explore the various gestures of care that the Chapitre Collective has embraced since their arrival on the site in 2020. Alongside opening up the space for collective and public use, the collective has actively engaged in cultivating the site's biodiversity and responding to disturbances within its multispecies communities through a range of caring actions. Before the arrival of Chapitre Collective on the site in 2020, Chapitre was abandoned and neglected for the past 30 years and became a sanctuary for marginalized communities, providing a safe space for the homeless, drug users, children and teenagers seeking for unregulated environments. Despite its existence within the city, it remained largely invisible to the general public. To ensure the accessibility and inclusivity of public land, a range of strategies were implemented, including the pivotal step of entering into a contractual agreement with the site manager, the Ministry of Justice. This agreement for the temporal use of the space allowed for the installation of a door in the fence, creating an entrance that now permits access to the site during public events. It represents a deliberate effort to reintegrate the space into the urban fabric and re-establish its significance within the collective imaginations of citizens. However, it is important to note that Chapitre is not fully accessible to everyone at all times. Signs posted at the entrance remind visitors to respect the unique nature of the space and its ethical code, emphasizing its role as a community space and a place of repair. It serves as a reminder that complete accessibility cannot be guaranteed at all times. During the last 3 years, Chapitre has evolved into a new urban commons, where negotiation becomes the primary means of arranging the use of space and determining its openness to the community of practice and the broader public. This dynamic reflects the ongoing process of engaging with and shaping the collective identity and shared ownership of Chapitre as a communal resource.
The majority of urban green spaces perceived by the public as beautiful consist of well-maintained parks and lawns, trimmed trees, flower beds adorned with non-native flowers. Such green spaces require constant care and resources to maintain their appearance, yet their ecological function is compromised because of this excessive maintenance. On the other hand, the spontaneous urban nature, Chapitre being an example, is generally perceived by the public as unsightly, hazardous and neglected. However, it serves as a habitat for many non-human inhabitants of the city and provides numerous ecologically significant ecosystem services. The cleansing of Chapitre, initiated by the nearby residents and ordered by the Ministry of Justice to control the mosquitoes and rats, reflects this perception of urban nature. The inventory of plants and animal species conducted in Chapitre has demonstrated that it provides habitat for at least 200 different organisms. As caretakers of Chapitre, we are aware that this represents only a small fraction of the organisms that call Chapitre home. To preserve or even promote this biodiversity, it is necessary to change the perception regarding the aesthetics and role of green spaces and consequently method for their maintenance. Vital to this is the constant learning and observing, as well as adoption of low maintenance practices that support life. Examples include changing mowing regimes, planting indigenous trees with significant ecological impact, allowing certain green areas to develop naturally, and establish forest gardens, among others. As caretakers of Chapitre, we have decided to use only a small portion of the site, leaving the rest of the site to develop without deliberate human interventions. As act of management, we have sown mixtures of various plants on damaged areas of Chapitre. And when obtaining biomass for our work, we do so in a way that does not eradicate the plants that provide us with that biomass. We use designated paths for our movement and implement various other measures to minimize the destructive impacts of our presence on Chapitre. Using elevated shipping containers allows us to preserve soil composition and ecological processes as we avoid long-term establishment or heavy infrastructure. This approach aligns with the project's temporary nature, enabling it to adapt and thrive despite the uncertain contractual agreement. As an aid in understanding the ecosystem on Chapitre and making decisions, we utilize the zoonomic method that help us to represent the interests of non-human communities on the site.
Public parks and forests often enforce strict regulations against foraging, resulting in a culture of passive observation of nature within urban environments. At Chapitre, we actively promote regenerative material cultures and facilitate critical conversations surrounding extractivism and material production through our harvesting actions that include picking wild clay, herbs, seeds, discarded materials, invasive Japanese knotweed shoots, and branches of black locust trees. Inspired by the insights of environmental arts and justice scholar Catriona Sandilands, we recognize that harvesting is more than a mere act of extraction. It serves as a pathway to establish reciprocal relationships between humans and the land. By engaging in mindful harvesting practices, we not only fulfill our needs, but also attend to the needs of the ecosystems from which we derive the gifts of nature. As an embodiment of reciprocity, we have embraced the use of invasive plants by crafting knotweed burek pastry using young shoots of Japanese knotweed and produced knotweed paper from the stems of this plant. By intentionally promoting both the food and the paper at conferences, events and festivals, we aim to highlight the innovative management practices associated with harvesting these plants instead of eradicating them. Furthermore, the abundance of young thorny trees of black locust on the site has offered another opportunity for engagement. Recognizing the cellulose-rich material within these trees, we have transformed the thorny branches into new paper products. This not only enhances the safer movement of school kids around the site, but also provides a valuable educational resource. By creating planting pots from the plant material, we have enabled hands-on learning experiences for children, equipping them with essential skills in plant cultivation and care. These harvesting actions are a manifestation of our commitment to urban stewardship, fostering a closer connection with urban nature and empowering citizens to actively participate in promoting biodiversity, mitigating pollution, creative regenerative material cultures, and improving their well-being.
As we said, soil on Chapitre is shaped with number of human interventions. During our presence at the site, the soils were highly affected by the renovation of Dunajska Street and archaeological excavations. These interventions caused mixing of the soil, the Chapitre slopes to loose vegetation which caused erosion, and excess soil transportation destroyed most of the meadows. They were facilitated by soil management practices that fail to recognize the soil as a living ecosystem and instead view it as merely as constructional waste. To recover the ecosystem, it was necessary to acknowledge the damage caused and demand economic recovery, enabling us to plan subsequent regenerative interventions. We solved a mixture of predominantly native plants on compacted and damaged meadows. Seed mixture contains seeds from plants that are pollinator-friendly, drought-resistant, fast-growing and nitrogen-fixing, and have the ability to accelerate the formation of new soil and improve conditions for plant growth and other organisms. On the compacted surfaces actively used by Chapitre Collective, we applied a thick layer of wood chips. They reduce water evaporation and serve as a food source for various fungi and soil organisms. The decomposition of wood chips generates humus, enhancing the soil's capacity to retain water and nutrients. Besides these reactionary practices, we care for the Chapitre soil in various other ways. Through the use of composting techniques, we generate a substrate rich in nutrients, which is then used to establish temporary beds. They additionally support the creation of soil layer at the degraded site, while enabling cultivation of edible vegetables and herbs. Other measures include moisturizing soil during drought with the firefighters' assistance, using a composting toiler for waste transformation, and gradually planting a food forest.
In a city influenced by processes of commodification, anything that no longer provides immediate gratification, whether it be natural or human bodies, is frequently seen as a threat or waste and is therefore marginalized or removed from public view. Goldfish and houseplants, which not only add aesthetic beauty but also require dedicated care, are being discarded into natural water bodies or treated as trash, and many other forms of wildlife lack proper habitats to live and move freely. Cities typically do not offer ideal living conditions for most organisms, making long-term settlement challenging. However, there are exceptions where certain organisms thrive in urban environments, sometimes even better than in their natural habitats. Pigeons, sparrows, and rats are examples of common non-human inhabitants that have adapted well to the city life. For others, such as birds and bats, spaces like Chapitre provide opportunities for their accommodation by setting up infrastructures that support their well-being and quality of life. Collaboration with experts ensures that the new infrastructures, such as nesting boxes and bat homes, are properly designed and cared for, providing the necessary treatments for the wild species. Additionally, the processes of establishing and maintaining these habitats serve as a valuable opportunity to educate the public about urban ecology. In addition to fostering wildlife at Chapitre, we also extend our care to abandoned pets and houseplants. Our aim is to create spaces of solidarity that challenge the commodification of curiosity, enriching lives regardless of species or notions of efficiency. One of our initiatives includes the construction of a fish pond, providing a safe haven for invasive goldfish and protecting them from becoming food for zoo animals. Furthermore, we offer a new lease on life to abandoned houseplants by providing them healthcare and inventing creative adoption process that involves activities like drawing them, giving them names, and learning about their individual needs. Promoting urban biodiversity embraces the act of providing access to an abundant array of plant and seed materials, carefully curated to enhance existing urban green spaces and establish new ones. Engaging in practices such as cultivating a tree nursery, acquiring knowledge on wild seed collection and storage, or establishing greenhouses for urban vegetable cultivation empowers residents to actively participate in creating thriving urban ecosystems. At Chapitre, our climate tree nursery serves as an educational resource to raise awareness about tree species that can mitigate the impact of changing climate conditions, including summer droughts and pathogen attacks. We also organize wild seed collection events and maintain a public seed bank to promote biodiversity and preserve vernacular plant knowledge. Through the dedicated efforts of a farming cooperative operating on the site, we nurture seedlings for a local vegetables field, cultivating fresh, local and ecological produce. By actively nurturing these plant materials, Chapitre contributes to the well-being of the wider community, both human and other than human, while addressing the pressing challenges of climate crisis. The actions we have explored highlight the importance of introducing innovative feral occupations in future cities. These unconventional workers could actively engage with theoretical frameworks as well as practice connections among diverse species within urban environments. Feral gardeners would employ non-traditional gardening methods that draw inspiration from post-human perspectives, herbalism, design, permaculture, curation, history, and transdisciplinary collaboration. Through their unique skill set, feral gardeners could effectively address the escalating degradation of urban spaces by prioritizing continuous and consistent care production rather than short-term project engagements. The concept of the city's call for the feral gardener is a speculative proposal for future city authorities. Its aim is to invite and inspire individuals or groups to collectively cultivate new modes of relating with urban landscapes, embracing unconventional and spontaneous gardening practices within urban tissues.